vision, leadership, workplace-related topics. The Voices of Victory podcast show. Subscribe today. Let's go.
Vision, leadership, self-esteem, workplace-related topics.
Subscribe.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision,
Voices of Victory.
leadership,
Voices of Victory.
workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
And welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast, where today your imagination will meet the ultimate potential. If you're one of those people that's actually afraid of putting yourself out on social media, this is the podcast episode for you. And the big question I have for you is, have you ever felt that burning itch to express yourself out in the world, but you stopped short because you wondered, what will they think? What will everyone think of me? Or maybe you caught yourself saying it, I'll do it later. But let's be real, later never comes. That stops today. That stops right here on this show. This is your wake-up call. This is your front row ticket to creativity unleashed, where only you connect to the rule. And that is the rule that there are no rules. So guess what? Stick around, because in just a moment, you're going to hear a clip from the legendary David Bowie. He's going to share his radical thoughts on self-expression and why playing it safe is the quickest way to fade into the background. And trust me, you don't want to miss this. So lean in, grab a drink, take a breath, and ask yourself, are you creating or are you waiting? Let's dive in.
Yes, never play to the gallery, I think. But you never learn that until much later on, I think. But never work for other people at what you do. Always remember that the reason that you initially started working was that there was something inside yourself that you felt that if you could manifest it in some way, you would understand more about yourself and how you coexist with the rest of society. And I think it's terribly dangerous for an artist to fulfill other people's expectations. I think they generally produce their worst work when they do that. And if the other thing I would say is that if you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting.
And there you have it. And today's episode is Radical Self-Expression, Risking the Brightness. And welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast. And just keep in mind, David Bowie didn't ask for permission. He didn't wait for public consensus before showing up in full force. He showed up painted, glammed, and unapologetically himself. And what he practiced wasn't just performance art. It was a radical self-expression, the kind that wakes people up. It forces them to feel something. And whether they love it or hate it, it's on the fringe. And if it's on the fringe, it could be incredible. It makes them remember you. Now, when we talk about radical self-expression on this show, especially in the modern world, especially online, it requires something rare. And it's not the courage to be disliked, but it's the capacity to stay centered while polarizing others. What does that mean? It means you're not chasing approval. You're choosing alignment. That means you will activate people. Some will be drawn to you instantly, like moths to a flame, and others will be put off. And that's the cost of authenticity. Let's call it what it is. Embarrassment is indeed exposure, and a lot of people don't like that, but it's the body's way of reacting to perceived rejection. It's a flash of heat in the body, a tightening in the gut, and the limbic system of the brain starts flaring off, especially the amygdala, the fight or flight. It's the part of the brain that's wired for threat detection. So, when you post something deeply personal or you speak publicly for the first time, your brain doesn't know the difference between the physical danger and the emotional risk. And that's the trap, but it's also the very breakthrough. And what's happening beneath the surface is a conflict between being authentic and your survival instinct. Your nervous system wants to protect you from social exclusion. but your soul wants to speak. And the tension, it's real. It's biological, but it's also evolutionary. And for you to evolve, for you to truly grow, you'll have to train your system to tolerate visibility. That means putting yourself out there, making yourself visible. But why is it polarizing? Why? Because when you stop performing and you start being, you give others a mirror to look in. And not everyone is ready to see themselves. They don't want to see themselves reflected in that way. They need you to fail, because if you fail, it proves that they can't do it. So when you shine bright, you expose the shadows in the room of other people. It threatens their very identity when you show up and put yourself out there. And those shadows, they're not dark. They're not evil. Let's not get it twisted. They're just parts of people that people haven't actually dealt with. Their fears, their regrets, their suppressed talents, and of course, their abandoned dreams. So when someone's light casts onto someone else's shadow, it triggers the person with the shadow. It causes discomfort. It's not necessarily about the person shining. So why stop your shine? Why should you stop shining because of other people want you to dim? It's about what's being awakened in you, the one that's actually watching. The internet's got no shortage of people who project their unprocessed bias stuff onto the ones that are bold enough to actually go out there first. And yet, someone has to go first. Bowie did it, Prince did it, Nina Simone did it, and now guess what? It might actually be your turn at some point. So we need to stop thinking of self-expression as an indulgence. It's leadership. It's leading your life. It's leading yourself creatively in another direction. It's service. It opens the lane for others to breathe easier. It's your voice, your story. It's your insight. And it's your insight that might be the exact thing that someone else is aching to actually hear, but they won't unless you're willing to risk the sting of being misunderstood. And that's what this is all about. This is not the elimination of risk, but the strengthening of your nervous system to move actually right through it. You may need to emotionally regulate yourself through breathing, movement, or grounding before and after you share something online. Not because you're weak, but because you're expanding. You're a container for visibility. You're a container for creativity. You don't need to become someone you're not. Radical self-expression isn't about hiding parts of who you are. It isn't about performance. It's about alignment, keeping in truth with who you are, saying what only you can say, showing up how only you can show up, and trusting that people that are meant for you, the meaningful connections will stay and the non-meaningful connections will fall away, or you'll have to shut them out yourself. You have to be able to feel the truth of it. And the rest, they can scroll on. If anybody doesn't feel the truth of it, they can scroll on. They can find another channel. If you stand in alignment with your values, then you can lead yourself creatively and express yourself to the world without fear. When you lead with your actual self, not the curated version of you, not hiding parts of who you are, not the filtered version of you, not the algorithm-friendly version. It's you, allowing your nervous system to mature. The psychological resilience of putting yourself out there. You learn to sit in your discomfort and do it anyway. You metabolize the feedback and you still show up. You realize that feedback is different than the criticism. You learn to become objective. And when you're objective, you find the insights in the feedback and you let go of the nonsense. Because the ones who make the deepest impact aren't the loudest. They're the most self-expressed. They've done the work, they know who they are, and they refuse to dilute who they are for a broader appeal. And that's not arrogance, that's clarity. They're clear about who they are, they're confident in what they do, and that's another problem we have is people are confusing confidence for narcissism. And there's people that are afraid to self-express out in the world because they're fearing getting pegged as a narcissist. They're fearing stepping into a true confidence because people can't tell the sharks from the guppies anymore. And you can listen to my episode on that. And this is why some of the greatest artists, writers, thinkers, they had to embrace long periods of rejection or obscurity before the world actually caught up to them. They weren't ahead of their time. They were simply on time with themselves. And radical self-expression is often misunderstood until it becomes mainstream. But if you wait for the world to approve it, if you're constantly seeking external approval, you're not creating, you're conforming. You're not allowing yourself to actually express. Now, let's be clear. Being visible doesn't always feel safe, especially if you've ever been ridiculed, excluded, or made to feel quote unquote too much. But that's exactly why self-expression is healing. It repatterns that early experience. Every time that you are shut down for trying to shine in front of other people, every time you post, you speak, or you share from a place of truth, not from a place of manufactured perception. You're telling your nervous system, this time I'm no longer hiding. And the real trick isn't to stop caring about what others think. It's to stop derailing your purpose and managing your own perceptions. Understand that it's not perception that's reality. It's people's interpretations of perception that makes their reality. Everyone has a lens in which they see the world. Everyone has a life script, much like an actor has a script. They have their conditioning, their upbringing, their preconceived notions, all of the things, all of the crap that's attached to their identity. You're not here to walk. You're not here to have people gently show up through your identity. You're here to embody who you are, not with force, but with clarity, with alignment. And if you're wondering whether it's worth it, whether your message matters enough to risk the backlash, because you have to risk some level of embarrassment. You have to. And you may not like the word because it sounds painful. But here's something to sit with. Someone is waiting for you to go first. Someone's freedom is linked to your expression. And when you speak, you normalize that. When you share, you carve a path. Embarrassment is a tiny, small, minuscule price to pay for someone else's liberation, especially if it means that you gave yourself permission to speak. That's not a post. That's a legacy you leave behind. And there will be days that you doubt yourself. There will be days where the feedback loops start to mess with your head. There'll be days when the brightness, when you shine bright, it feels like a burden. And on those days, you have to come back to your body, come back to your breath, take a full breath, pivot and go again. Come back to why you began. What is your why? Your purpose? Let's break it down. Because you know what? Embarrassment it's not a risk. It's a gateway. It's a gateway. People are going to say what they want to say. You have to have the courage to be disliked at some point. Embarrassment is the price of aliveness, especially if you're out there performing in some way, shape, or form. It means you were present, you were vulnerable, and you were honest enough to put your real self on the line, where other people were completely afraid. Most people avoid it. They avoid it by over-rehearsing, overthinking, over-editing, over-shrinking, or over-vanishing. But here's the secret. Those who are willing to endure the discomfort, because that's the thing. Embarrassment is part of discomfort, and there's growth within that discomfort. So discomfort of embarrassment, they're also the ones who accelerate their growth when they embrace it. They're learning in real time, adapting, metabolizing the feedback, refining their expression, maybe even experimenting. Is that every single video you put out there, every single thing you do out on social media can be an experiment. And when you experiment and you play, you start to tinker with your reality. You start to figure out what works and what doesn't, what feels solid and what doesn't, what emotionally resonates with your soul and what doesn't. And that's not theory, but that's happening through experimentation and experience. Embarrassment shows us where our identity is still entangled with approval. And that sting that you feel, it's not shame, it's a flare. It's literally a flare for where you're still outsourcing your power. You're giving it away. We hand away our self-esteem to the world when we start to worry about what everybody else thinks. Because in life, people chase external things. They don't tap into the internal part of who they are, the intrinsic aspect of who they are. So when you lean into that discomfort instead of pulling away, you reclaim that essence of who you are. You separate your expression from your worth. And that shift alone can change your very trajectory, your very direction. It could change it for art. It could change it for leadership. It could change it for love. And if you're never embarrassed, you're probably not taking any creative risks whatsoever. You're playing it safe. Saying it is like it's already been said. You don't want to curate a version of yourself that's technically likable but spiritually flat or authentically flat. Embarrassment is literal evidence that you're pushing into the edges. You're leaning into the sharp corners. And all evolution, personal, social, artistic, we live at that edge, the edge of discomfort, right there between comfort and discomfort, right on the edge. Think about the moments in your life that transformed you. Chances are they involved a version of exposure, a confession, a mistake, a reveal. Embarrassment can be tempered, and it can be tempered through humility, to be humble. And that's the thing. Embarrassment is a teacher, and humility, to be humble, is the remedy, right? If you think of it this way, embarrassment is a teacher dressed in awkward clothes, but its lessons are foundational. It teaches you humility. It teaches resilience. It teaches clarity, and sometimes even comedy if you let it. If you learn to laugh at your mistakes rather than being serious, you'd be surprised at what that could do. If you learn to be curious instead of serious, you'd be surprised what that could do. It can make you more whole, feeling whole. So the next time you feel that big emotional wave of, oh, should I put this video out there or not? Should I put myself out there or not? Don't run. Breathe into it. You're not dying. You're expanding. You're being rewired for more truth, more visibility. You have to be visible. And more importantly, you have to trust yourself, because on the other side of embarrassment, guess what? There's actual freedom. There's actually freedom, and the freedom in letting go and releasing it, understanding that you put yourself out there. It's all about small, multiple bouts of courage, daily courage in the smallest possible amounts to put yourself out there. Visibility is a practice. Expression is a discipline. And your soul didn't come here to play it small or stay small. It came to resonate. It came to have meaningful connections with the right people and at the right time and at the right moment. So post a thing, say the words, show up, create the channel, create the podcast, even if your hands shake. Because the world doesn't just need your message, it needs you. Become visible. Make yourself brighter. If you become bright, you will cast a dark light onto people's shadows. Why? Because they're lacking something inside of them. You're doing something that they're lacking, and it threatens their very identity. But that's not your problem. It's all about stepping into visibility, being authentic, having that confidence, leading the direction that you want to go in, and make yourself brighter. And that's it for today on today's episode. I'll see you on the next one.